we will be recording this session. So feel free to turn off your camera now if you'd like. And before we start, I'd like to make a land acknowledgement. So in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect, we recognize our work takes place on many traditional Indigenous territories across Canada and internationally in countries where we support economic development. Acknowledging this is but one part of our ongoing reconciliation journey that we undertake with sincerity and responsibility in every aspect of our work. So let's dive into our presentation for today. So we are very glad to be able to continue to host our regular sessions of the advisor webinars in both English and in French. And of course, today's is the English one. We'll have tomorrow, if you're interested in tomorrow's, it will be the one in French, and it's on a different topic than what we'll be discussing. So my name is Rebecca, and I am one of the VSOs at Catalyste Plus, and I will be your moderator for today. So as I mentioned, a part of today's session will be recorded. So this will be for the first hour, which is composed of the presentations by our speakers and the Q&A sessions. So only the video of the speaker will show on the recording. This means that if you have a question with your video on, then that will show in the recording. So basically, if you are not speaking, your video will not show in the recording. If you wish to turn off your cameras, you may do so now or at any point during the session. And I want to thank you all once again for taking the time to be a part of this meetup with us today. We are always excited, and happy to have the opportunity to have a face-to-face meeting with our advisors and others who are interested in our programs, even if it's virtual. If you're new to Catalyste Plus or new to the webinars, the purpose of these sessions is to provide an opportunity to our advisors to share information and experiences with each other. This is also an opportunity for you to learn more about Catalyste Plus programs and processes, as things are always evolving. In addition, you can also network with one another with advisors from the same sector as you who do a similar work. Each session will have one or more focus points, so we're really excited to be able to host a couple of sessions each year. And then for this session, you will be learning more about Catalyste Plus ongoing initiatives that really integrate sustainable practices into our projects. You'll also be hearing about a specific beekeeping project that showcases how environmental sustainability can be applied in a practical, community-driven way. And I would also like to introduce the other volunteer service team, who will be helping with the running of today's webinar. So we have Dara, who's our volunteer service officer, who will be operating the chat box and assisting in any technical support. And then Camille, who's also our volunteer service officer, another one, who will be supporting us behind the scenes. So today's agenda, we will start with a presentation by James Malu, who's Kenya's country representative for Catalyste Plus. Then we will hear from Paul van Westendorp, a Catalyste Plus advisor, and Titus Shamir, chairman of the Tapping Available Resources to Empower Economically and Nutritionally, TAREEN, who is a partner of Catalyste Plus. And then after that, we'll follow by a Q&A session where you can ask questions you may have regarding their presentation. So both presentations and Q&A sessions will be recorded, as I mentioned, but this will also then include with the formal session, and we will have, after that, 30 minutes of networking in breakout rooms, which will not be recorded. The networking sessions is, of course, informal, and it's completely optional if you would like to stay for it. If not, that's perfectly fine. So I just want to go over some housekeeping. So please keep your mic muted when you are not speaking. You have the option to switch on and off your video as preferred. If you have any questions during the presentations, you can either hold on to them until the end, or you can put them in the chat box. I will then go through all the questions during the Q&A segment after the presentation. If you would like to ask a question during the question period, other than through the chat box, please raise the hand feature, use the raise the hand feature, and wait to be called upon. Before speaking, briefly introduce yourself to the group, and please keep your questions short, and be concise and respectful to other participants. So I would like to introduce, of course, our first speaker, who is James Melu, Kenya's country representative at Catalyste Plus. So James has over 20 years experience in programs management, training, mentorship, and development and growth of climate smart agricultural and eco-inclusive small and medium enterprises in East and West Africa, specifically in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Nigeria. James has a PhD in entrepreneurship focusing on financial inclusion and a Master's of Science in Entrepreneurship and a Bachelor in Economics. He has close to 10 years work experience managing beekeeping programs in Kenya. And James is currently the Catalyste Plus country representative in Kenya. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming James. Over to you, James.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. And I don't know when you are going to put up the poll, but that can come later on. Do you want to make a comment on that?
Sorry, 1 second. I'll just upload the poll.
Yeah, there's a poll there. I think she's put it up. You just want to check, our knowledge on beekeeping. Just a quick check, so you can just check yourself how much you know about beekeeping, and then you can proceed. So the poll is up there. You can answer those questions. Maybe let's give ourselves 4 minutes. It's multiple choice, so just ticking the answer that you think is correct. There are only 10 questions, so I don't know how you're doing with that. So let's get some 2 more minutes. I don't see anyone who has answered. I can see. Let me see. Yeah. I hope you're able to see the questions. If I'm moving too fast, let me know. I'll just start again from the first question is right there. Second question. Third, I think you're able to see it on the screen. The fourth question. Just tick the right box. Rebecca, is everyone able to see the poll?
I believe so.
Sorry?
I believe so. People are answering. I know that.
Oh, very good. Good to know. Yeah.
Do you want me to share it? And I can end the poll now and share the results.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Exactly. Yes, yes. Okay. Yes, you can see. Yes. Yes. Um, Paul, you can see people are not doing so well.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had the answers on the sides. I would have walked you through that. But as you can see, oh, wow, okay.
I think it's time for all those people to take a course in beekeeping. That's quite obvious.
So I think you can stop sharing, Rebecca, and then let me share my screen. Try to locate my presentation. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, so as you've seen, beekeeping is very interesting and it's very wide, and we'll be talking about that. So right now, I'll not give you all the answers, but quite a number of you got the answers wrong. So as Paul said, all of us need to take a course in beekeeping. So that is my name right there. And why are we here? The reason why we are here, as you are aware, the whole world is in actually Brazil as we speak. They are talking about climate change. And the reason why we are here also is to find a way, or to find, as a family, as Catalyst Plus family, is to find ways in which, and to look at our science and find whether we are also contributing positively to climate change. And we found beekeeping is one of those assignments or intervention areas where we are actually making a significant contribution to climate change. So as our meets in Brazil, we're also here trying to examine how we can make a contribution to climate change. And beekeeping has been chosen as one of those interventions where actually we can make significant change in terms of helping with climate change. So apiculture is one of those interventions. Yeah, so let's talk about apiculture a little bit. We're not going into details. So apiculture basically is beekeeping, and we want to see how apiculture connects with sustainable development goals, because the sustainable development goals actually speak to issues of climate change. And of course, the good book talks about Canaan, the promised land. And the promised land is said to have been flowing with milk and honey. So milk and honey it talks about the promised land, a sustainable land, basically. And so sustainable land, flow with milk and honey, is where everyone wants to be. And well, that's what the Sustainable Millennium Goal, SDGs talk about. We want to spend a bit of time defining apiculture. I usually spend a lot of time with the university students. Currently, I'm supervising 4 PhD students. And some of the areas we spend time on is defining concepts, models, and all that. So I want to define apiculture, and I will do or make my own definition of apiculture. And here it is. So apiculture basically is a happy culture. That is just for here. So don't quote me out there. Yeah, so I can get away with it. I'm a researcher. So this is my definition of apiculture. So apiculture sustains actually a happy culture. And we want to see how apiculture contributes to, the global family, as it were. So apiculture leads to, sustainable development goals, and we'll be examining that in a bit, how that does happen. So again, apiculture leads to happy farmers. apiculture does lead to happy families and happy communities. So apiculture is so crucial to the SDGs, but also at the end of the day, when all is said and done, it's about people. Are they happy? Are they having sustainable livelihoods? And the apiculture does contribute to that happiness of the families, global families, basically. Apiculture, try to remove some stuff that's pop-ups. Yeah, so apiculture is actually very wide. It's like this onion you can see here, very many layers. Look at those layers, and each of the layers is very important. Each part of that onion is very important. And so beekeeping is that complicated and has many parts that needs to be examined one after the other and actually appreciate each part. But today we are not going to look at all this because it will take time. So we are only going to appreciate the overview of apiculture and how it can contribute to the SDGs. When Paul steps in, I think he might give us a bit, might give us a peep on what apiculture is. But for now, for this particular session, we just appreciate what is apiculture is and what it can do to the SDGs. So beekeeping is an activity that speaks, by the way, for your information, for the SDGs. There's 17 of them. And there's a document to that effect. Again, we'll not look at all the 17 SDGs. That will take a lot of time. So we'll just look at the most critical ones, how apiculture does contribute and make an impact towards the achievement of the SDGs that the whole world is talking about in Brazil as we speak right now. So apiculture does improve food production systems from the most subsistence actually to the most technologically advanced systems. Apiculture speaks to that. And it does this without creating pollution or waste. That's what the world is talking in Brazil. Pollution and waste affecting climate change. So apiculture does not contribute to waste or pollution. And that's a good thing. So we should scale apiculture here at Catalyste Plus. Then it has a positive impact on biodiversity. Again, that's something very close to the SDGs and to the global family when it comes to matters climate change. So apiculture does align with all the SDGs, but we will not look at all of them because of time. So apiculture, when you have apiculture, hakuna matata, keine problem, do problem. So apiculture does not cause any problem. And so it's a good intervention that we need to actually embrace. We are still on apiculture and sustainable development goals. So how does apiculture contribute to some of the sustainable development goals? Through pollination. And through pollination, apiculture does affect or contribute to these two sustainable development goals you can see here. Yeah, SDG 2 and SDG 1. End hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition. Yeah, and promote sustainable agriculture. That is SDG 1. Apiculture does contribute to that. And as you are aware, there is a rising demand for food security in the face of the, posed by the growing human population. Population is going up, so food also must go up. So bee, as an insect, plays a very crucial role in pollination, which leads to, increased food security, and that does also contribute to ending hunger or poverty in all its forms everywhere. And you want to look at some statistics here. Look at them. I just picked a few. And if you're interested, I can share a document that actually talks about all the SDGs. So bee pollination does impact SDG 1 and SDG 2, like in the US. And bee increased almond fruit production by 60% compared to to self-pollination. These are statistics. This is a research done in 2020. Very recent, very impactful. And then in sub-Saharan Africa, which is actually considered the main producer of cotton, bee pollination increased cotton yields, by that amount or that percentage compared with an estimated 37 without bee pollination. That is a research done in 2017. So you can see what beekeeping does to the SDGs and to our, when all is said and done, to our livelihoods, to our lives at the end of the day. So this is a well-researched document that actually does document what apiculture does to impacting on SDGs and climate change. I just put a few research quotations or impacts. Then look at SDG number 5, achieve gender equality. And as a Catalyste family, gender issues are so close to our hearts. So achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. This picture you can see here is in Kenya. All these are women and young girls doing beekeeping. Speaking to SDG 5 in terms of income generation and of course in taking care of the environment. And you can see that research down there. Women constitute 72% of beekeeping labor, FAO, 2021, very recent, but on only just 18% of bee, but you can see they're still marginalized in a way. So we need to actually adjust this. And I think Catalyst Plus, we are doing well in making sure this imbalance is taken care of. But yes, gender issues in terms of beekeeping, apiculture are being addressed. SDG number 5. And we are doing that already across the globe where we have beekeeping assignments. So beekeeping around the world, beekeepers actually around the world are actually planting forests with great diversity of species. And that does affect issues of global warming, issues of climate change. You can see SDG 13, climate action, urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. And then SDG 15, protect, restore, promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainable manage forests, combat desertification, reserves, land degradation. So these two SDGs again are being addressed by beekeepers in all the areas where we are intervening. And so we should appreciate this. So in Kenya, there's a lot of tree planting. Like these are Maasai indigenous communities planting trees and also doing beekeeping as well. So that does speak to the SDGs, and that does make us appreciate that we are actually doing something about climate change, and we are on the right path, so we can scale up what we are doing. And at the end of the day, when all is said and done, the conclusion, apiculture, happy farmers, happy families, happy global communities. That's what we are trying to do here. And I think I will hand it over now to Paul to tell us, to take us to the happy land and tell us a little bit more about the assignment that he carried out here in Kenya with farmers who are very happy now because they're doing something that they love to do and making a contribution to the global community and to themselves. So I'll stop sharing now. Over to you, Paul. Take us to happy land.
Thank you, James. Rebecca, are you going to?
I'll introduce you and Titus to everyone.
Okay.
So, and thank you, James, for that presentation. It's really insightful. So our next two presenters, they worked on a project in Kenya, are Paul van Westendorp and Titus Shamir. So Paul was introduced to bees and beekeeping in his childhood. His ongoing fascination with bees and their critical role in agriculture and the environment led to studies in agricultural science at UBC with summer employment with the BC Ministry of Agriculture in the 1970s. After UBC, Paul was involved in apiculture research at the Agricultural Canada Research Station at Beaver Lodge, Alberta. In the mid-1980s, he moved to Uganda and managed an apiculture development under the auspices of Care International. So its objectives were to train subsistence farmers, beekeeping management, and generate supplemental income. Paul returned to Canada in 1987 and was appointed provincial apiarist of Alberta. And he was also appointed BC's provincial apiarist and retired in 2025. And then our other speaker, Titus Shamir, is the chairman of TAREEN, one of our partners. Titus has a certificate in beekeeping from the Ramogi Institute of Science and Technology and a bee master certificate from British Columbia Ministry of Agriculture and Food. Titus has over 4 years as a beekeeper and beekeeping training, and he has been the chairman of TAREEN Beekeeping Cooperative. So I will hand it over to Paul and Titus to present on their presentation.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is Titus on screen, or is he still in the clouds somewhere? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I will refer to him as well.
Sorry, I have him as joined, so he is in our meeting.
Okay. Now the question is, how do I share? Hold on for a second. Where do I share? Share. It is. No, this one. Can somebody see this?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Then we do this. Is this all visible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I should start out by thanking you for inviting me on a project that took place in 2024, and I give a very brief thing. James, oops, maybe my sound is too loud, or maybe someone. Is there anybody? There's Titus. Hello, Titus.
Yes, Paul
Hi.
van.
Yeah, hello
Hi,
there.
too.
Okay. Maybe the buzz sound is the result of somebody having their mic on, but in any event, just to give you a very quick background of it, Busia is way out there on the west side, close to Uganda, to the left of the screen out there. I don't know whether you see my cursor going around, but this is the area out here. It has a beautiful climate. It is perfect for a variety of agricultural products, including beekeeping. James was very eloquent by claiming that beekeepers should be happy folks and everything else. Well, I tend to look at it slightly differently, less romantically. I apologize if I'm not as romantic as James is. The beekeeping in Eastern Africa, particularly close to Lake Victoria, is excellent. Well, is potentially quite good because of the climate. And of course, one of the great advantages of beekeeping within the environmental context is, or as well as economic context, is the fact that it does not alter land ownership. We sometimes have grand ideas here in the West to introduce other parts of the world of all kinds of agricultural enterprises, but that could potentially upset an awful lot of local people in terms of where they can reside or how large their fields have to be and so on. Um, Beekeeping, on the other hand, a small farmer in somewhere in an agricultural area does not have to alter the land ownership. Hives can easily be installed in some locations where bees can live in these hives, and from there, the beekeeper can obtain a supplemental income. Okay, so that is the underlying purpose of it, and it certainly is very complementary to environmental concerns, largely because, as you all know, or perhaps do not know, bees in general, or pollinators in general, are critical in the health of the plant world. Uh, Basically, what it boils down to is that pollinators, bees in general, look after the sex life of plants. Plants have the problem that they're stuck in the ground. They cannot just move over, have a little bit of fun, and then go back again. So they need an external agent to move their pollen grains from one plant to another. That is called pollination. Okay. Now, there are quite a few pollinator agents around, and there is a group of plants that have evolved to use the wind. And so they don't need insects or birds or anything else to pollinate, but these are typically the grasses. The grasses and corn is a good example, and wheat and all these other things. So they need the wind. But many of the fruit crops, the more valuable crops, require an external agent, a biological agent, which in most cases involves an insect. And most of those, we call those pollinators. So, beekeeping in Busia would be a great idea. Busia itself is, as I described here, has a total population of approximately 1 million people. It is very agricultural. There is not really any appreciable industry as such. There is obviously serious challenges in the infrastructure. People are poor people. They are compared to some other parts of Kenya and certainly some other parts of the world. They have also a limited literacy and English proficiency. And I'm not using this as a critique. I'm only putting this in context of the justified need for support in that rural part of Africa. And of course, there's high unemployment. I should also mention that there is a high birth rate. I was quite impressed with the number of children that walk around out there in relation to the adult population. And this is important because it also signifies that, in 10, 15 years, many of the school children enter the workforce, enter the economy, and hopefully will find employment. And so it is critical that we help to establish, to at least to go towards that development now, so that some opportunity is in place in 10 or 15 years. Just prior to my departure to Kenya, I learned, of course, more about the details concerning TAREEN that Titus was so much part of. And there were a whole number of other people. I have to stress this. And it was wonderful. I was told there was a lot of women and youth employment initiative, and there were in this particular cooperative about 125 members. But then I also learned that they were collectively operating approximately 300 colonies that were owned by a variety or by a number of people. It turned out that the equipment was not very of good quality. I also learned, to my shock, that these poor folks out there were exposing themselves to Africanized honeybees without protective clothing, and they only had one smoker and some hive tool and I think one honey extractor. These were alarm bells for me because I should step back a little bit. I'm not going to give you a course in beekeeping, but keep in mind that the East African bee that exists in the lower in the countryside out there is called Apis mellifera, which is the honeybee, but this is the race or the subspecies called scutellata. Apis mellifera scutellata. This was just to give you a context here in relation to America, to North America and South America. In the 1950s, a researcher in South America, Dr. Kerr, brought some of these African bees, queens, to Brazil in order to do research out there to improve the performance of honeybees that had been brought to South America several hundred years before that. Now, these scutellata bees hybridized with the bees that were there already in South America, and they escaped. And as a result, they started to spread very rapidly, and eventually they came to North America in 1990. And in the meantime, they created an awful lot of problems, and these are generally then described as the killer bees or Africanized honeybees. And the reason that they are killer bees, it's not because they kill, although they could sometimes kill livestock that is tethered on a rope or on a cable or something and cannot escape. In other words, the common denominator of this particular subspecies is that it is very defensive. And as a result, when you disturb a nest, these girls, they're affectionately called girls in my world, they come out and they start to defend themselves by stinging and everything else. So you're dealing with a pretty serious livestock that the beekeeper needs protection. And so I very quickly, just before my departure, I negotiated with a number of suppliers and got a massive suitcase, as you can see here on the right side, and got it chock full with a variety of things from coveralls to veils to smokers to hive tools and gloves and the whole 9 yards. Not enough, I'm sure, but it was at least a gift to give to the beekeepers out there in order to give them a fighting chance. So, so that was basically the start of it. When I got out there, I learned a whole bunch of other things. And these wonderful beekeepers out there, I learned a lot from the local beekeepers, and I'm very grateful for that. They basically got themselves into this whole situation because a few years prior to that, there was a commercial outfit in Kenya that was selling and promoting bee equipment, and you can see some of them hanging here in the tree, to beekeepers who wanted to improve their lives. And so quite a few of those people invested their money into getting beehives and so on. And after they got all that equipment and so on, there was no further support given by the original marketing outfit that came from another part of Kenya. So they were kind of at a loss as to what to do properly. And here they had colonies that were perhaps producing 2 to 4 kilograms of honey per year, and that's it. And so that is why they approached Catalyste, or at least raised the question, what can we do in order to improve our situation? Now, I should again, and that was somewhat amusing to me, because as you can see here, women and youth empowerment with a question mark. When one of the big organizers out there, I said, where are all these ladies and the youth? Because this whole group of people, and they were all together, and Titus, you may have to correct me here, roughly 80 people in total. There were maybe less than a handful of women involved. This is not surprising because what I also learned in Uganda 30 years before that, in the mid 1980s, or 40 years actually, I'm getting a bit older here. This is a male occupation, and it is not because women cannot do beekeeping. They certainly are capable. But these bees are so aggressive that they generally only harvest at night. And at night, it is mostly not right at the settlement, but it is somewhere in the bush. Well, women don't walk around in the bush at night. Men do. So, and only for a good reason, such as harvesting honey. So that's why there is a cultural bias, if I can say that, towards that beekeeping is some predominantly male occupation. Okay. Now, women can play a fantastic role in all of this, following or post production. In other words, after honey has been harvested. The current management style is, and it has been forever, is that you just hang a hive inside in a tree, for example, and you wait for a swarm to come in, and that will become your operating colony. Okay, swarming is a very common activity in this particular subspecies. As I mentioned, harvesting is done at night, and every few months, basically the beekeeper goes in at night, takes the hive apart, and extract honey. And I don't, for the lack of good terms, I don't want to sound in a negative way, but it is basically their model is not to manage that colony, but to raid the colony of honey. So every time a few months out down the line, basically the honey is extracted and the bees are just left in the box to start all over again. Okay. There is not really management taking place the way we would do that here in North America or in Europe or whatever. So because of that raiding activity, I'm not surprised you only get 2 to 4 kilograms of honey. And I'm actually impressed that they get as much as that. The course itself was designed to be done in 3 different locations, and as you can see here, a total participation level of 60 to 70 people. It was every day, for 5 days per week in one location, followed by another location in the second week, followed by a third location in the third week. Titus was a key player in all of this because he is very fluent in both the language, the various languages, as well as he has a very wonderful knowledge about the beekeeping and beekeeping management. So he was a critical component of the delivery of this course. Now, I must admit, I personally had slightly different expectations upon arrival. I had thought that there was already a substantial knowledge base, if I can call it that, among the beekeepers, so that I was going to build on that by lifting it up to a higher level or assist in bringing them up to the next level. Unfortunately, I learned that that was not the case. Many of these beekeepers have put in a lot of their resources to get these colonies, to get the bees, to get some basic equipment. But their knowledge base was very limited in terms of bee biology, in terms of the connection with floral nectar sources, things of that kind. And the approach was typically, hey, I put more hives into a location, and the more hives, the better, without taking in consideration the sustainability of the local environment to sustain that many colonies. So I had not just only my eyes open for bees and beekeepers, but also in the landscape that would support all these bees. And unfortunately, basically there are way too many hives placed in locations in Busia where basically the environment could not sustain that many colonies. It is better to have a few strong colonies than to have many tiny little small colonies. Okay. Again, I was totally impressed with the interest and the dedication that many of these beekeepers showed. They came from faraway places and came out there to listen to the presentations. And you see in the left photograph Titus standing out there making a presentation about, I forgot what the topic was at that time. And of course, the customary lunch is always provided as well. And again, you see here a predominance of males. The women were not particularly present. I was also impressed with the matoki. I mean, my lord, look at the size of the food that these folks can eat. Yes, Titus, I know it was amazing. Anyway, um, so the effort had to be from a radical shift from raiding colonies to managing bees. And the unfortunate fact was also, and I felt terribly sorry for many of these owners. Look at for local beekeepers to do what, this is a major investment. Look at this structure that is in the photograph, the metal sheeting on top to create a roof. And here, all that equipment, this cannot come cheap. Yet the manufacturer produced poor quality, poor fitting equipment, and that made it all very more problematic. I don't want to go into all different details about the types of hives involved, but in my view, based on the way how they handle things and their extracting system, the Kenyan top bar hives are probably the best option as a model for further development. I would also say that considering the highly defensive behavior of these bees, if you start to disturb them in the middle of the day, for example, you're going to have mayhem for the rest of the day. The only way to really deal with them and manage, not just raid, but manage these colonies properly is early, when you have to get out of bed at 6 o'clock, and at 6:30 you're in the bee yard. When the sun has just come up, the temperatures are still very low, and then you can actually open up a hive and manage them, inspect them for diseases and for brood development and things of that kind, and nurture them along until you have your harvesting season. Okay, or you do that in the late afternoon, just before sunset. Okay, and of course, it is critical that these people get personal protective and equipment, a smoker, and hive tools. Without it, I just cannot expect any of these wonderful farmers to stand out there and expose themselves to these very defensive bees. So the challenge is also that there has to be far greater attention given to the supporting vegetation that is out there. What I also learned, and that is largely a traditional thing, of course, is the type of crops that are grown out there. Maize, millet, sorghum, cassava, sugarcane. Wonderful crops, but none of them support bees. They do not produce nectar, they produce nominal pollen, because the pollen that these particular wind-pollinated crops produce is of exceptionally poor nutritional quality. And as a result, bees are not interested in collecting that. You need really fruit crops or legumes and things of that kind. And there is some beans and legumes produced, that's true. But others could be, far better crops can be produced or grown strictly dedicating to producing nectar. And there are quite a few crops that can be grown in that environment. So planting of bee forage is critical in order to elevate this entire beekeeping productivity out there. Now, it has to be considered as well that in this particular area, with the kind of vegetation you have, honey yields will always be somewhat limited. There are other parts of Kenya, notably the savannas, where you have a lot of the acacia trees that actually are very prolific nectar producers. And that's a whole different environment outside of Busia. Okay, that is definitely where great opportunities exist. More knowledge base has to be offered. The other thing is also I noticed that there was very limited or virtually no farm mechanization. Very little. There's a lot of manual labor involved in a lot of things, and therefore infrastructure, high transportation costs, things like this are all limiting factors. I do believe, however, that there are excellent opportunities that can do better. And one of them is that there is excellent opportunity for greater crop diversity, which also assist in improved human diets. I give you an example: sunflower, buckwheat, clovers. These things are all fantastic to elevate. Look at orchards with guavas and passion fruits. Certainly excellent potential, and all of those do require pollinators. I also think, and now we get back into the women involvement, I think that if they would establish, together with such a training program, a honey wax processing center, this would really offer quite a bit of opportunity as well. Now, how to get there requires funds, of course, and money. But I also think instead of sending me all the way out, for example, for trying to get something going with 60 or 70 people, it is far better to, in my view, to rely on a person on site, such as Titus. He's knowledgeable, he has experience, and all what we need is to provide him more help to become a teacher of other beekeepers. And one way to do that would be for doing a project again with Titus, and perhaps select another 3 or 4 other people, and those become future teachers in the local environment. To send me out there, I mean, I enjoy doing it, but it is an expensive proposition. I think that but using Titus as a vehicle, sorry, Titus, I don't mean this in any way other than, rely on him and people like that to really deliver the goods in the future. He can speak the language, he has his knowledge base, he can learn much more, of course, but we start small and plant the seeds of teachers that can then spread out in the future. And Titus could perhaps be involved in a bee project, not just in Busia, but perhaps in another part of Kenya as well. So I think that is my last photograph here that is of a genuine, unadulterated African honeybee. Okay. Any questions? Oh, there's silence.
How about we'll start questions in a minute. I would also like to, Titus, if you would like to as well, speak to our advisors as well.
Oh, his sound is
Right,
off.
Titus, I think you're on. Oh,
Your sound. Oh yeah, there he is. No, Titus, your sound is off.
I think I'm on.
You're on.
Hello, Mr. Polvan. Long time no see, no talk. How it's life?
I couldn't hear you that very well. Sorry.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Hi,
I can hear you.
mind repeating what you were saying?
Okay, I think I'm getting everyone. Don't know if a problem or what. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Much better.
Okay, thank you. So this is Titus Omena. Thank you for this opportunity. The chairman of TAREEN Cooperative, located in Busia, Kenya. And first of all, I wish to appreciate Catalyste and my senior mentor there, Mr. Paul Van, for the chance we had together, training farmers and engaging with different beekeepers. Actually, Paul Van has talked a lot of what was on the ground, and I want to appreciate him because all that he has said, they are facts. And actually, we learned a lot from him, more so about the project, beekeeping, and other engagements. You have seen photos there, people enjoying their meal. I remember Polvan. We forced Polvan actually to eat ugali. Remember Polvan? How funny it was. So we get a lot of engagements aside from beekeeping. But first, I want to appreciate him for the knowledge he brought to us. Actually, he got to engage with a lot of farmers. And the first thing I want to mention is that since Paul Van left, the project has been on a different level. And I think if we can have another chance to visit Kenya, maybe can realize that there are a lot of changes because of what he left behind. And for instance, he has mentioned about a few things. People having a lot of colonies without proper feeding of the bees, that is forage. And that is one of the things we have been focused on for us to increase our honey production. For instance, I've worked with a lot of farmers, and now we have ventured in trying to plant some crops like sunflower to boost our forage. And for that case, I have seen a lot of improvement in our production. For instance, most of the farmers are now producing 7 to 8 kgs, and some even producing 10 kgs per hive.
Excellent.
I think, yeah, I think despite that, we have also encouraged farmers to work with a limited number of hives. You remember Paul Van mentioned there that most of the farmers were having a lot of hives, but with low production. But I think it was just lack of knowledge. And for now, things are changing. We are working with a number that at least you can manage, and matters of forage is catered for. Then another issue, I think he has talked about raiding of colonies. Paul Van used to worry and laugh at us that we only deal with bees at night. But I think he has mentioned something to do with having African bees, which are very hostile. And we never knew how to deal with them until Paul Van proved to us that you can handle them during the day. And actually, most of our practicals, actually not mostly, but all of our practicals, we used to handle the bees that they actually it was from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And even people used to wonder how can it be, because we are used to handling bees at night. But he proved to us that it is possible to handle bees during the day, and we did it, and all the practicals went successful. And Paul Van, I want to assure you that since that day, we realized that it is possible, and we are now doing it. I think there are some videos, I'm going to send them to you. Not raiding, but now
Managing.
yeah, managing bees and doing the right thing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think I'll wish to mention a few things about the project. Most of our beekeepers, I think when Paul Van came, there were ladies, there were old men, as he has mentioned, a few youths, and a few, very little number of women. But due to that training, I think they went ahead to encourage others because of the training. They realized that it is possible. It's possible for women to engage in beekeeping. Youths have come on board, several of them. They are now doing beekeeping. And with the knowledge and I have, things are now changing because we are now doing it practically, not just words. And though we are experiencing some challenges, a few challenges actually, but we think with the time, maybe things are just going to be well. For instance, we have a challenge of forage, of which we are now dealing with it. As I have explained earlier, we are encouraging at least every farmer to be planting sunflower every planting season. Sunflower have an advantage of shorter growth period, and they're actually making a difference. Then we have a challenge of climate, of which now that is beyond us, but we are also dealing with it. In some cases, you will find that there is drought, and drought actually affects us because we don't have those acacias, as Paul Van has clarified. We just have leafy trees, of which whenever there is a drought, they are most affected.
Yeah.
And then we also have cold seasons, like now what we are experiencing in Busia, we are going through a cold season. And another challenge we have use of pesticides. So that one we are at least sharing with neighboring farmers who are using pesticides to at least reduce reduce planting of such crops that require pesticides, so that we don't harm our bees. We also had a challenge of knowledge, but now with what Paul Van did, and actually when Paul Van left, I had to create another group of other trainers. I trained some few youths and some interested few number of women. Now we are a group because it was very rough to me. It was very tough for me to handle a group of over 300 people. So I had to engage some few youths, train them, and we are now doing well. Then on matters of knowledge, I think we are now doing well. But we still need more knowledge, especially from people like Paul Van, because they shared with us about modern ways of doing things. Actually, in some instance, someone like me may be sharing with them, they think like it's maybe not applicable. But when they heard some of these things from Paul Van, they realized that it's real. Yeah. Uh, I think on another issue, another challenge we have is about the cost of hive equipment. For instance, most farmers are producing honey and wax. Uh, Honey wax, propolis, royal jelly, but most of them only focus on honey. So you realize that other products are just going into waste because the way of processing, the machines, you realize that they can't afford. So it's just most of these products just go into waste. So I think we have a challenge of those equipments, like the machines and whatever. Then there are some others who are much interested in doing these projects, but the cost of the hives very high. So the hives, the tools that are used, like bee suits and other bee equipments. I think I should take this opportunity to thank Paul Van, for the equipments you brought to us. They have made a change because I divided them into. I think Paul Van, you remember we had 4 regions while training.
Mm.
So yeah, so I went ahead and distributed the equipments according to the regions.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so at least every region has some few equipments that they exchange and borrow from each other.
Okay, good.
So though the number is still low, but it made a change. At least some of these farmers are now going to the apiaries and experiencing what they were taught, because most of them were just they just read theories. You find a farmer, a beekeeper, having bees, but has never been close to bees just due to lack of the equipment. But now most of them are going to the apiaries and doing these things practically. So thank you, Mr. Paul Van. Another challenge we have is about the trainings, because we find like with these old people, the youths, you find that for you to deal with them, you need to engage them with this training so that they at least they get time to go through what they had learned.
Mm.
But we have a challenge whereby the facilitation somehow a challenge, though we usually do it like let's say once in a month or so, but it's not still working very well due to low number because of the facilitation. Then another issue and the big, I think it is the elephant in the room, the market of the bee products, which has been a very big challenge to us, mostly because you find that the local market that is available, actually we sell our honey to brokers. Though we process, we do everything, but you only find that the available market, they're just brokers who will buy this honey at a very cheap price and go sell at something maybe double the price that they have purchased at the farms. So I think that is among the challenges we are facing. Then I think Paul Van mentioned about the equipments. Actually, I think this is among the issues that forced me to do a research and got interested on knowing what can we do so that our projects work out. Because at first, I had that passion about beekeeping. And the first moment I saw hives in my area, I really got interested and decided to interact with the farmers who purchased the hives. But the people who supplied the hives to us were just brokers. So what they did, they took advantage of the interest of the farmers, supplied the hives, though I think they also had no idea about the beekeeping. Their interest was just to have just to supply the hives, of which they sell at a very high prices. So after supplying the hives, they disappeared and left the farmers behind. So I had that interest and passion, but to know what could I do to help this farmer. So I had to go to school, get this knowledge, and with time, I think God came through, and now we collaborated with James Mailu. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul, Mr. James, and we had this training. And now the things actually in Busia, when you anywhere you come to any part of Busia, when you try to mention TAREEN, they'll tell you TAREEN is a very big entity in matters of beekeeping and the beekeeping and everything entailing bees. So I think for now we don't have that challenge of brokers because I do guide farmers on the right equipment. So at first they didn't know, but for now I think we are having the best qualities, the best quality of beehives, and it has contributed to a high percentage of honey production.
Thank you,
I think a lot
Titus.
of this.
Oh,
I
sorry.
think okay. I think I'm done. Let's just do it for question and answers. Back to you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you, Titus. Thank you, Paul. This was really insightful, and I think we all learned so much from this project and what you've both accomplished in it. So now I'm recognizing the time we have, so I think we'll have about 5 minutes for questions. So then those who want to stay on can go into their breakout rooms. So for our Q&A session, we ask that you please stay muted as we read through the questions from the chat box, after which we will open the floor for any additional questions. So if we do that, please raise your hand, use the raise hand function if you have a question, and wait until we call your name to unmute. And as I said, we'll probably just take about 5 minutes for questions. So I noticed there's some questions already. So there's one question about local market for honey. Is there a local market for honey or beeswax products, or is the output just for local consumption?
If I may answer the question, unless Titus wants to do it, but the problem is this, that worldwide there's plenty of honey. Honey in itself, as James was asking, what is the most important function of bees? Of course, it's pollination of crops, because that enables farmers to produce all kinds of fruits and whatever. Honey in itself, from a strict agricultural perspective, is a byproduct. This sounds weird, but this is what it is. So for the Busia beekeepers in the future to really make it work is to create a specialty honey. To do this cooperatively through let's say, and it is not my idea. This is what the TAREEN group actually proposed years ago, is to have a cooperative extracting plant where women could do a wonderful job in working in such a cooperative setting, and that then the cooperative is going to market this honey into major centers such as Kisumu and Nairobi, and preferably gain access to the airport where you can sell specialty honeys right at the gift shop. Okay? That is more targeted approach to actually be successful. If it is just simply general honey, it's not going to go anywhere, in my view. If I may just jump out of the time constraint that we have, there was here a question by Wayne concerning about top bar hives versus Langstroth, I think, yes. The problem with Langstroth hive is, in order to make Langstroth hive, by the way, Langstroth hives, for the benefit of everyone else, is the conventional hive design that we have in Europe and in North America. Okay, these are tight-fitting boxes without leakage, without the manufacturing standards are quite good. In Africa or in Kenya, that is far more of a problem. Not just that, in order to justify to have a Langstroth hive, which is expensive, you can only justify that if you have extracting equipment whereby the honey frames, the frames that contain honey, can be extracted through a centrifuge. Okay? If you don't have that available, don't bother, because it's not worth to go through all this expense. It is far better than to have a top bar hive, and the top bar hive will basically be far more accommodating because it is simpler in design and does not require all the extracting equipment. That's basically the gist of it. Sorry, I just wanted to jump on it because I saw that in the chat box. So I hope that I answered the question adequately.
Thank you so much. We might be able to take one more question, and if not, we'll move on to our breakout rooms.
I'm sorry, I have my gas meter, believe it or not, is being replaced this very morning, and so I cannot stay for very long at all. So I
okay, well
apologize.
we'll move on to our breakout rooms then. Thank you so much.
We just had one
Okay.
more question in the chat. I don't know if
we do.
perhaps we can send it to you by email or
Sure.
yeah,
Yes,
let's do
please.
that.
Please do.
Okay, we'll send that to you in the email and include the CA who asked it. So thank you so much. So this concludes the official part of our meetup today. Thank you again to our wonderful speakers for taking the time to share with us your knowledge and experiences. I would also like to thank everyone for joining today and asking such excellent questions. So now what's going to happen is, for those of you who are interested in some informal networking, we'll be opening up the breakout rooms. Since we will be ending at 1:30, the breakout rooms will be a little bit like 10, 13 minutes. But so you can all get to speak with each other. And then we'll end the breakout rooms and come back just to fully end this session. So again, I want to thank you all, and we will be moving everyone into breakout rooms. Oh, we will
Bye,
stop the
Titus.
recording.
Bye, Titus.